Hi there. This curious sigil or sign, symbol, is this one here, not this one here, is called the cross of Gnosticism or the Gnostic cross. It's also known by other names as well, which we won't go into here. I only want to talk about one element today, really, which is these two parallel lines, which parallel lines, of course, never meet. But briefly, this symbol here, this element, the circle, represents human consciousness, which takes patterns in the universe and creates meaning out of them. So that's the idea here. These two elements here, which are supposed to meet in the center here, which actually don't, because I've mucked up the drawing. This represents the aspiration of the soul, or aspiration of the consciousness of the soul awareness, rising up from base metal, or this world, the demiurge world, and on its way up, it meets, coming the other way, as it were. It meets going from left to right, or it could be right to left, or both at the same time. It meets the action of the Holy Spirit, vision of the Holy Grail. And where they coalesce, the point at which they coalesce, is the numinous experience. Anyway, so that's briefly what those elements mean, but there's lots more I could be said on that, which I haven't thought of yet. But what I'm wanting to look at is these two parallel lines, because that's very significant. One of the parallel lines represents the unfoldment or existence of the good God, the transcendental God, and the other represents the demiurge, the creator of this world, from which soul awareness arises. And the thing about it is that, you see, the problem that Gnosticism solves ostensibly is the problem of evil in philosophical theology. This is concerning Orthodox Christianity, is the problem of evil, because on one hand, God is not omnipotent, which goes against the definition of God. And on the other hand, God is not wholly good, which also goes against the definition of the good God. And Gnosticism seeks to clear this problem out of the cupboard, as it were, by saying that on one hand, the demiurge is indeed not wholly good. So that's the demiurge there, not wholly good. But the good God is not actually wholly almighty or wholly omnipotent, because the demiurge is there doing his business. Now, but the problem arises, you see, that if the demiurge, well, who created the demiurge? I mean, we might say that God wasn't created because God is infinity. And infinity can't have any cause because there's nothing before infinity, so it's acausal. So we can understand that God is infinite and wasn't caused by anything. But a lot of classical Gnosticism would have you believe that the demiurge was created by God. And this means, again, that either God is not wholly good, or God is not wholly omnipotent, not in control of the situation. And of course, then you could say, oh, well, the demiurge, the Zoroastrian religion, of course, says that the demiurge, or Ankrumenu, as they call him, was tricked into coming into this world, manifesting in this world, in order that he might be destroyed when this world is destroyed. And that's all very well and good for the Zoroastrians. But I mean, where does that leave Gnosticism, really? Because the demiurge, is well, I think he's sort of, somebody called him like on a good work parole that he's when he's completed his function, his task, which is to create Homo Virtuous, or noble man. I mean, if you think of the demiurge as being like the furnace in which the sword is beaten, or beaten on the anvil. So the demiurge is the anvil, and the sword of man is beaten on the anvil, and thereby made harder. So that we actually are proved, as it were, by our actions and experience in the lower worlds. But that's all very well and good, but it still leaves the question that whoever created the demiurge, whoever created the situation, is not wholly good, because if you're testing somebody by tempting them with evil, that means that you're not wholly good. So that's a problem for this Gnostic God, and as it is a problem for the Orthodox Christian God, you see. Not so much, well, a little bit for Islam, and not so much for Judaism, of course, because Judaism, actually, their God is not wholly good. Their God is merely tribal on the side of the Jews, and it's the good of the Jews that their God represents and reflects, nothing else. Anyway, and it's the good that the Jews do that is approved of by their God, basically, which is their Talmud, their religious law. So anyway, the Parsees roll into action about this point. The Parsee religion is in India, and of course they picked up a lot of stuff from Hinduism, from Samkhya philosophy, from Hindu philosophical speculation. And their idea, they do have Angro Mainyu, which is the old Zoroaster, or Ahriman, which is a Zoroastrian word for the demiurge. And they do have Ahura Mazda, who is the good god, the god of the Gnostics. But the thing about it is that whilst Ahura Mazda has indeed an evil twin who has created, perhaps I put Ahura Mazda down here, I mean the demiurge Angro Mainyu here, because he's created this evil world from which soul awareness arises. So the demiurge is here, creating the worlds merrily away. And this is the good God up here, this line here. And as you can see, if we go that way, we're sort of heading into infinity. And if we go that way, we could head into infinity as well. And these parallel lines never meet. So the first thing is to observe that the demiurge and the good God have nothing to do with each other. They literally have nothing to do with each other. They are our parallel universes, or parallel lines that are apart. I mean, you may say that there's sort of bridges, that the Holy Spirit is kind of like a bridge between these two parallel lines, and the various other entities, and the soul awareness, the Holy Spirit, the vision of the Holy Grail. These are kind of like could be the odd pieces of rope that are strung across these two poles in order to make them into some kind of ladder. But really, that's kind of muddling everything, because they really have nothing to do with each other. But the thing is that the demiurge was not created by the good God. The demiurge is causally created. In other words, the demiurge is infinitely powerful and infinitely big. And just because it's infinite, he wasn't created by anything or anyone. And similarly, the good God is not created by anyone or anything. It just is, because it's infinite. So the demiurge is not just the creator of this world, of course. It could be the creator of the 9 quintillion planets in the universe. And not only that, but it's also the creator of all the various levels, from the astral level right up to the etheric level. Although that's a bit of a special case, because it's sort of a mixture, as it were. But that's kind of even more of a confused theology arising there. But anyway, the point is that because the good God did not create the demiurge, the good God is not wholly good. He is not good and evil. He is just good, and the demiurge is evil. And the goodness and the evilness, if you like, has always been there since time. Forever, infinitely. But of course, it does mean that neither the Christian Orthodox God nor the Gnostic God is omnipotent, almighty. because they can't do anything about the fact that the demiurge exists and has existed for since infinity. So basically, it's true that the God ends up having a characteristic of non-omnipotence or non-almightiness, but that's okay because he's still the Lord of the realm of non-duality and perfection. Whereas the demiurge is the lord of duality and imperfection. And this imperfection and duality has been going on for an infinite amount of time, as indeed the perfection and the non-duality has been going on for the infinite amount of time. So basically, at least you've got a theology which doesn't posit the existence of a God, a good God that is actually not good, that is a mixture of good and evil, because the mixture of good and evil belongs exclusively to the demiurge and not to the good God, you see. Anyway, so it's a bit like, the golden temple of the good God has no speck of dust in it. Now you can look at the coal bunker of the demiurge, and you can find soul or souls, and that's the gold nugget within the coal bunker, and that you can certainly find within yourself, and you can certainly either cultivate it or discover it, and have faith in it, and have faith in the Christ and the Holy Spirit and the vision of the Holy Grail, which will take you upwards to meet the convergent force of the non-duality, ineffable spirit coming towards you, and you have the numinous experience at the point where they interact, where they intersect. You see, but otherwise, I hope that this sort of clears up the problem that Gnosticism, if it's seen in this sort of Parsee kind of way, doesn't have a problem with the problem of evil, and God, the good God, remains good, and the demiurge remains evil, but within his kingdom there is soul, which is a reflection of the good that is found in the realm of the good God. And I mean, this kind of model is fairly complex and needs a lot of simplification to explain it better. I feel really, but I do like the Parsee model, and I like the fact that Parsee religion has a kind of Gnostic feel to it, but also it's also more powerful than the classical Gnostic theology seems to be. It's more watertight. It explains the situation better, to my mind, than classical Gnosticism, as far as I understand it. Because of course it could be that in classical Gnosticism, this idea is hinted at or explained better than I've explained it, perhaps. And you'd have to kind of look into the Gnostic Gospels to see if there's any evidence for this kind of model to exist, really. This is so. Everything has emerged from infinity, and into infinity it goes. And we are experiencing, of course, time and space has been created by the demiurge here. So basically, we are sort of in this region of our current time and space, or our individual time and space, looking at the good God, looking at the Holy Spirit and the Christ consciousness and the soul consciousness. We're looking at it from space and time's point of view, and we're looking at this. So it looks like, in fact, that non-duality, ineffable worlds, the world of the good God was sort of created as well. But that's not true. Neither is it true that the demiurge's world has been created. It's always been there and always will be there. And indeed, the demiurge actually is infinite in the sense of the law of thermodynamics, which states that energy is neither created nor destroyed, merely changes its form. So the demiurge has been changing its form and creating worlds and worlds and worlds forever. And the energy that the demiurge has is the same energy that it had an infinite time ago, as it will have an infinite time hence, you see. And that goes for the good God as well. So our consciousness, soul consciousness, leaps from one line of the parallel lines to the other, and as we leap, I suppose we see, as we're leaping, the whole situation in its entirety, which is represented by the circle of human consciousness.